gonna happen. Okay, we are live. We are going to get started in about a minute. I'm just gonna let people catch up with us. Happy everybody's here today.
Lauren, can the audience send in questions during it?
Yeah, they can send in questions to the feed through LinkedIn.
Awesome.
Yes. So hopefully we are live here soon. Here we are. We are live. All right. Amazing. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Lauren Martin Clemens. I am the head of marketing at Pipestream. And today we have another installment of the Beyond the Bot series. This series, we explore the often overlooked aspects of customer experience and digital assistants and chatbots. You'll hear from various members of our team, of our in-house team of experts, as they offer insights to enhancing customer engagement and streamlining operations. However, today we are doing things a bit differently. There will be no slides in our session today. Instead, I've invited our Director of Customer Experience, Josh Kohler. Say hi, Josh. Recently, Josh experienced one of the worst digital customer experience stories I have ever heard, and we're going to talk about it. Our webinar today is called Stop Creating Haters, so why don't we get started? Josh, I think the best place to start is at the beginning. So, what exactly happened? Give us the details, set the scene.
Poetic. I love it. Thanks, Lauren. I'm happy to be talking to everybody today. And I'll preface this by we're highlighting this negative experience because we want to talk about what not to do and areas to improve. So this is a call in, right? Not a call out. I don't expect good customer experience from brands that I don't have trust in. So the fact that my expectations were high, right, is a good thing. Then we just need to meet them. So I'm getting married in September. And
congratulations.
Thank you. I was doing a little bit of online shopping, as we're all want to do. And I know not everybody buys, attire for their wedding or the weekend of from Old Navy, but I do because they have awesome deals. And I've been a loyal customer for, 15 years.
At least.
And I saw an outfit, looked really cool, kind of these white linen-y, fabric shirts. Thought, the day before at the vineyard, that would look awesome under a light jacket. Didn't know what size I was because it's hard to tell online. So like you do, I ordered two, right? Get an X and an XL. Now you all know my sizes if you want to send me anything, right? And wait for them to come. And they come quickly, as they usually do. I think a couple of days later, my package arrives. I open it up. There's just one shirt, right?
Oh.
Not the end of the world. I ordered two of the same thing. I figured, honest mistake. Somebody on a packing line saw it, put it in. When they look at it, they see the quantity, but just one item, and one got left out. Not the end of the world, right? As somebody in the chatbot space, that's my first line of defense. I don't pick up the phone. I go to the easiest, most direct channel, right? So open up my computer, launch the chatbot, tell them that I received a package, I'm missing an item. The good thing here, they understood what I was asking, right? Sounds like you were missing something from your package. Can we ask you a couple of questions? I gave them my email on my account. I think I might have signed in the chat. I let them know the order number, what item was missing. Thanks for the information. Here's a link. No problem. I click the link. Now I get asked for all the same information again. Right there, you start to lose me a little bit. That kind of, now I'm providing everything twice, right?
Yeah,
so it's
you're
adding.
repeating yourself.
I'm repeating
annoying.
myself.
Right.
It's something that we don't like to do on the phone, right? We know that experience of being passed from person to person on the phone and having to repeat yourself. It sort of feels like the same thing, right? But in that chatbot online experience. No problem. I go to the link. I click the link. I slightly grudgingly provide all the information again, and I submit my claim. Awesome. It'll get taken care of fast. They'll apply their rules. They'll give me my money back or a new shirt. No problem. Except that's not what happened. I think within like an hour or so, they must, they run their automated rules. I never hear from a human, but I get an email back saying your claim's been rejected. Right. So somebody or some algorithm decided I was lying and I was trying to get away with this $35 shirt, right?
Yeah.
Which I can tell you is the wedding at large is costing a lot more than that. So it's not just as a drop in the bucket, but dollars are dollars. So it was just the kind of the principle of the thing. Wanted to make it right. So okay, again, I give the benefit of the doubt.
Hmm.
Working in this industry, I know sometimes the rules might apply weirdly. There's risk of fraud. Pick up the
Right.
phone this time. Go to the phone, provide all the same information. I get escalated. Now I go to a manager, kind of like a fraud department, provide all the information again. They review it and they
Same
say,
thing.
you know what, I'm sorry. Nothing we can do. This is rejected. We don't think you're telling the truth. We sent both items. And I'm like, I'm shooketh, right?
Oh,
I'm a
yes.
little taken aback. And because I know the package arrived, there's cameras in the building. I open the bag, I'm like, I go back through it. Did I miss something? Did it fall through a hole? Right, there really was just one shirt.
Right.
um at this point I have no more recourse. And they tell me I can go through PayPal, I can go through my credit card. And I'm really disappointed, right?
Yeah.
Not because a mistake was made, because we are all human and I totally understand that that package came and something was missing. It's not a big deal. But because I
Right.
had a lot of trust in the company to be able to quickly make it right, I didn't think I would even need to talk to a person to do that.
Yeah.
And they couldn't. Right. And now they left me feeling frustrated and distrustful. And like, I can't afford to buy more things online from that brand, because if
Hmm.
there's a mistake, they're not going to help me and they're going to keep my money. Right. Um,
Absolutely.
and now it's like, if I happen to drive by a store, maybe I can still shop, but this whole online marketplace to me is almost closed off. To
Oh
wrap
my.
the story for the people interested, right? Kind of the inverse experience. I call the credit card company, explain what happened. In probably 2.5 minutes, they run their rules. They see that I've never submitted a claim before. This is not some, pattern of fraudulent behavior, and they return
Yeah.
the money, right? Which was what was always going to happen. And,
Right.
you would think that someone, some sort of, whether it's an algorithm or a human supervisor to correct an algorithm along the line would have said, this customer is going to get reimbursed for the mistake. Why can't we create a positive experience, right? So that they will come back and feel really good about us instead
Right.
of telling them no and making them go somewhere else to get a resolution.
Yeah.
That's my story.
That is wild. So, as an expert, where do you think at what steps along the way do you feel like Old Navy got it wrong?
Yeah. So first thing, right, the fact that the chat was available, that was great.
Mhm.
That was an awesome start. I like going there. If I can do it without getting on the phone, that's a win. Um, Asking for my information and then linking me out somewhere else and asking for the information again, that hurt a little bit, right?
That's the first
Um,
problem.
that's
Yep.
number one, right? That's kind of a goes against our best practices to be repetitive, make customers repeat themselves if we don't have to.
Right.
Um,
And it's not better than the call experience, right? Like, that's exactly what you would have experienced if you had picked up the phone as well.
it feels like being transferred, right?
Right.
Absolutely. The second thing is, if we know up front that, what, this link is the only way that you can submit a claim for a missing item, provide it
Yeah.
to me, right? They understood the natural language understanding, got what I was asking for. It knew something was missing. Um, and if that's the only way to do it, it's okay sometimes to pass me there. But you
Mhm.
want to be upfront about it, right?
Mhm.
And on the flip side of that, right? If there's technology available behind that link, right, APIs or some other way to file that missing item claim, keep me where I am, right? I love
Yeah.
to be able to do something in one place.
Mhm.
That
Okay.
was mistake number one.
Whew. That was a heavy one. Okay. Number 2.
Yeah. Number two, say, right, obviously getting that rejected claim email, back.
Yeah.
So again, maybe there are things happening behind the scenes that I'm not privy to, but
Mhm.
it really felt like an automated process. Applied a set of rules and sent me this email telling me no. But I had to sit there and wait for it and then call back in.
Mhm.
You are not going to be able to make every single customer happy with the resolution.
Mhm.
Sometimes, right, I've dealt with this scenario. Somebody can be requesting something and it does legitimately get flagged for fraud because maybe
Yeah.
they've requested it 3, 4, 5, 6 times that month.
Yeah.
reject it on the spot if that information is available to you. And if you can, even better, tell them why. Right. So that
Mhm.
was another thing that was frustrating is this claim's been rejected with no information as to why. Is it because
Right.
there's a flag on my profile? I think when I called in later, I got some little bit of information about how a billing address on my PayPal account may have differed in the apartment line than a billing address on my credit card, and that caused the initial rejection.
Mhm.
If that information is available, sharing that goes a long way.
Yeah.
If it's a clerical thing I can correct, right, then I can go and do that.
Mhm.
So, you know, processing this with rules, delaying the resolution after those rules, and then not explaining the decision, right, were three things in a
Right.
row that kind of, um, again, hurt a little bit as the customer.
Okay. And then number 3, is there a third?
Oh, is there a third? I don't, I guess not having human supervision that could kind
Yeah.
of correct the mistake, right? And understanding at some point, right, I got a person involved because I understood this isn't going to be solved with these automated rules. Um,
Mhm.
and, the assumption is you have a human on the other end who's empowered to kind of look at things, judge the risk and the cost to the business, and look at a customer's profile, right? You can look at my email on the account and see
Yeah.
the orders I've made in the past, and
For
that
15
there,
years.
right,
Right.
that there isn't fraud there. So it was good to bring that human in at the end. I don't know if they came in too late or if they weren't empowered to kind of
Take that.
overrule. But sometimes, you need that human oversight, especially, I mean, we work with, customers where there might be medical emergencies and things, and the automation can't handle it, but we get it to a person who can kind of bring that gut check to it.
Mhm.
And there was a level of, there was no gut check here, right? We weren't able
Right.
to do anything other than what the automation and the algorithm said.
And that is like the worst way to start bringing technology into your processes. Like humans using AI is to augment our experience, right? It's not to completely replace humanity in the mix. So, what is the overall fear? And I'm kind of leading the witness a little bit, but honestly, is that what it comes from? Is like, the mindset of like, I'm just trying to replace my agents. So I'm gonna make this as black and white, as automated as possible, and not really give my agents or the people in my call centers power.
Yeah, that's a great question, right? How could AI be leveraged in that experience where the fears? I mean, I think that the general fear is the reason people fear anything, right? It's new and it's different and it's change and it's scary.
Yeah.
But I think, the other thing, right, is it's not a catch-all for everything, and it's not a solution to eliminate human involvement. It is to augment. So, I think from the jump, there were opportunities there. Once the chat understood what I was asking, if it was to keep me in one place or to pass me out to a person.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was a case where it was being overused, and and that's why the supervisor, they were relying on something that said, here's the action to take, and
Yeah.
they can't gut check it.
Mhm.
So I understand the fear if someone comes and says, we're going to replace everybody with this
Yeah.
AI, because it's not going to work, right? What it should be is, here are the places where we can slot it in to make this, more streamlined for the customer. We're not going to pass them around from place to place to place. And here's a set of kind of rules and checks and balances for when you do need to get a human involved, and kind of, add that extra layer of supervision. I don't know if that
Right.
answered your question fully.
It does, it does. But, I mean, it's also about giving them, right, that overall power to override the system, and it sounds like in this case, they just quite frankly did not have it.
I think that's totally true.
And I think, again, highlighting some of the things you talked about um of the lack of transparency. So not only did they not have the power to override it, they also didn't have the power to explain to you what happened. So why did our system kick this request out? Like, why couldn't we give you something else or give you a bit of a something back for this issue.
Yeah, and there are some, like, again, best practices kind of that weren't followed here that, would have, at least made me walk away, even if I didn't get the resolution that I really wanted, feeling a little bit better as a customer, right? If
Like
I
what?
came in, yeah, if I came in, here's my issue. I see the chat understands my issue, right? And
Hmm.
then offers to start collecting the information.
Hmm.
Once I share the information, if I've shared my profile, the order number, what came, what didn't, my expectation is if I've given all the information that I expect, if I gave that to a human, they would be able to help me, right? So I expect to go to the next step, not be passed
Right.
somewhere else. So at that point, you would hope, if there's a back end integration, right, they can run a set of rules and
Hmm.
see what does our system say, right? Does it say that? Which I assume it said, nope, we think we sent both, or we didn't, right? And then return some information to the user with options.
Hmm.
So if those rules process and it tells me, you know what, our system says that the package weight looked like two items, not one item. So maybe there was theft at the shipping address, or maybe you missed something in the package. Right, that's
Hmm.
information you can return back to me. That's kind of the conversation you would expect to have face to face.
Right.
So if you return that back to me, and I have the option to check those things, right? Can I ask the building to check the camera, which of course we did, right? Can I look back in the bag, which of course I did,
Hmm.
um, and then giving a next step, right? Like continuing to make it actionable, not now walk away and sit and wait for an email to tell you that there's no further recourse. Um, the best case scenario there, if I've maxed out everything that I can do in the automation,
Hmm.
is you might want to pass it to a human, right? So maybe 80, 85, 90% of those claims can get a simple answer in the chat, right? We run our rules. We give you a couple steps if you think there's something you're not looking for. Maybe I'm sure a lot of situations come in where it might be that second item, it's going to be in another package. So we're going to ask
Hmm.
you to wait another day or two. And you could even provide a tracking number back to the customer. And now they have something they can walk away with, right? But if you can't in that 2, 5, 10% of situations, at least you can keep them in one place, right? That's a
Hmm.
really nice feeling as the customer. And that person who's sitting on the phone instead might be sitting behind the computer, and can give me more information or take me to that next step so that I don't feel totally in the dark. So
Hmm.
that's, I think, kind of in the best practice world, what the experience might have felt like.
Hmm. Yeah. And so, why are companies getting this wrong? Like, you see sometimes companies like completely rejecting the digital assistance or chatbot route or automation route, and then you see companies doing things like Old Navy is doing here, where it's just too much control over the process. What is the discrepancy? Why is that going wrong?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think uh, people are looking at a couple of different things. One is when they're afraid to introduce it, right? Sometimes it's just fear of new technology,
Right.
or not understanding the technology, right? Not having the people on your team who can like steward that progress forward. Just a great reason to look to experts. In other in other situations, I think sometimes it's like business rules and the gut check. And we've seen situations where kind of fear of fraud or the worst case scenario can lead you to make decisions that actually aren't in the business's best interest. Right,
Yeah.
talk to customers who have started from similar places, right, where a chatbot might collect information from a user and then automatically reject a claim that's ultimately for maybe $1.50, right, because of fear that it's going to be abused.
Mhm.
If you have the right people and consultants and systems in place, that's something that should be very easy to check for, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you might have a person who comes in and creates 7 different email addresses to walk away with that $8.50, or right, whatever it is.
Mhm.
Um, but is that occasional risk greater than losing the business of a bunch of long-term customers who might be spending thousands of dollars there over the course of a couple of years?
Mhm.
So I think it's going past the gut level of here's what I'm afraid of, and getting to like here's how I hope this system would work, um,
Mhm.
and then actually mapping out what you can do to avoid the real fraudulent experiences, and give customers good ones. So I think
Mhm.
you have to be open to using the technology, because if
Yeah.
not, your customer experience is going to feel old. It's going to feel clunky. It's going to be hard for your customers to reach people, and it's going to be expensive, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's not just a band aid that you slap on and you do nothing with, because that's going to be equally frustrating to the customers. So, I mean, like the short answer is to use the technology, but use it intentionally and carefully. Um, and I think it's not easy, right? That's why,
Right.
I think that's why some people do it wrong. Uh, and I think companies can sometimes rely on like the good faith of a long-term customer.
Yeah.
They'll come back, right? What's the in with car insurance? I think my
Mhm.
rate always goes up after I've been a customer for 3 years, because they
Mhm.
assume you're the least likely to leave, right? No, that's when you want to double down on the customer experience and make me
Yeah.
feel loved, right? Otherwise, I'm going to go
Mhm.
and start shopping for quotes.
That's right.
So I would kind of apply the same practices in any industry. Is don't assume maybe, I don't know, maybe that was the rule on my profile. You know what? He has been a customer for 15 years. If we reject this, it's not really going to matter. He's going to come back. That's not the way to approach customers.
No, not at all. And you're touching on something a little bit there of like what type of business do you have? So like for example with the insurance, like that was a good example of something that you're kind of going to stick to, and yeah, it comes out of your account every month, your payment, you're not really thinking about it. And then the big bill comes and that's when you start thinking about it. And something like Old Navy, I mean, Old Navy has clothing and merchandise for every single life stage. They have baby all the way up to adult, right? So let's say that one day you decide to expand your family. I mean, you're getting married, you could be buying stuff for your future wife, you're buying stuff for yourself, maybe you expand your family into having some kids. Like you have a lot of longevity with that brand. So why destroy the relationship? And does that come down to kind of like understanding your customers and then using and then I guess a two-part question of like how do you use the technology that you're collecting in your digital customer experience to continue to reinforce that loyalty?
Yeah. A couple really interesting
Sorry,
things there.
big
No, no, no. It's
big
a
question.
great point about like that lifetime consumer lifetime like value,
Yeah,
right? Because I clothing wears out and you're always going to buy more of it, right?
exactly.
So that's something you keep coming back for, and yeah, you could buy for family and children and yourself. So there's a lot of potential there. The other thing that I sort of heard you mention is like the continuous improvement.
Hmm.
Um, that if you do something and it works for one customer, that doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. And you need a large sample size, and to be willing to grow and iterate. And I mean, that's definitely true,
Hmm.
because I'm sure the process that I went through, there's probably someone who was attempting to, get away with a free
Yeah.
shirt and it worked, and it may
Hmm.
have worked for them. So somebody said, it works, let's stick with it. But it didn't work for me. Right.
Hmm.
And it's not going to be a one size fits all. And I think that's where the rules come into play. That's where being able to like, A/B test things, in a really easy way come into play, and being willing to take what works and do more of it. And if something isn't working and it's frustrating customers, stop. So some of that I think is being nimble. Some of that is actually like looking at the data, not making assumptions. There's
Yeah.
a couple great stories there of big companies trying something because it worked somewhere else and it does not work for their customer base,
Right.
right? And so I think broadly speaking, yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah. But is there a way to like use, so example, you're using a chatbot, maybe you're asking questions, product recommendations, that kind of thing to help companies sort of understand their customers before they start making these rules? Like, is there a step by
Mm.
step process to go through to get to a point where maybe you could automate more of this process, or maybe this process could have been better if they had taken more time in one area than the other?
Yes. So I'm thinking of a couple different instances where you implement something new for a customer and you just learn something totally unexpected.
Yeah.
There's one kind of similar industry, like men's grooming, skincare,
Hmm.
where the biggest selling product is a bundle, right? And it's going to
Yeah.
be 4 items. They smell the same because you want continuity in your scents, and that's what customers want to buy, right?
Yeah.
And that's what the chat is used to selling and answering questions about. And then we propose the radical idea of, you know, what if somebody comes in and they don't want to buy all 4 things of the same scent, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't on the table, right? And the first thing we looked at is there any data to support this, right? Are people looking for custom builds? So like the free text, the entries that you get from users in the chatbot can be really powerful there. So actually having somebody look at those, it's great that you can come in and you can ask something of a chatbot, but if your data is like unmonitored and just sitting at the bottom of a well, it's not
Hmm.
helping anybody, and it's definitely not helping your customers, right? So looking at that, we saw, yeah, there's genuine interest here,
Hmm.
and kind of put together a tool where each one of those different products that would typically come in the kit, we're going to ask you first, right? What are you looking for? What do you want to get out? And ultimately, right, what scent are you going to walk away with here? And we saw really interesting stuff. And not only were people saying, when I start my shaving process, I maybe want sandalwood. And then when I'm shaving, I want lavender because it smells really good in the cream. And then when
Yeah.
I'm all done, because I've used 2 different scents, I want something unscented because if I use the same thing 4 times, it's going to be overpowering,
Yeah.
right? And you walk through that flow, and it ends up generating a average cart value that is larger than any of the other kits that you would normally add to cart, because you're letting the customer pick the things that they
Okay.
want, and they're willing to spend more when you do that.
Hmm.
I mean, that's just one thing that I think, if we weren't paying attention to data, and adjusting things and being willing to test, never would have happened. And now this is like a big potential revenue generator for that brand. So it's a niche story, a little bit outside of the clothing space, but I think the same thing applies. Where if you're
Yeah.
making assumptions about what your customers want, you can be missing out on opportunities. But if you are paying attention to the data, listening to them, and coming back, right? My hope for this is not to come and say don't shop somewhere. It's that somebody somewhere will watch this webinar and say, oh, we need to revisit this process so that the next customer who doesn't get something, um, you know walks away having had a positive experience with the brand and wanting to shop here again.
Hmm. And doesn't organize an entire webinar for everyone on the internet to see.
Tag
um,
app
yeah.
CEO, or yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna tag Old Navy. All right, so we are at the end of our time. Unfortunately, I don't see a lot of questions from the audience, but that's okay. I'm sure we'll get some as we continue to share this post. But I just want to say thanks, Josh, so much for your time and telling us your story. And we hope that you found a shirt for your wedding. Did you actually? End of the day, did
Oh,
we? Yeah,
it all worked out.
it
And
did.
that
Okay.
Friday night pre-wedding vineyard shirt will look fabulous.
Yes.
And the suit for the wedding day, yeah, it all worked out.
Please be sure to
Um,
post photos as a follow up. I'm sure people want to get an update. But
Definitely.
again, yeah, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. We'll see you all next month for the next Beyond the Bot series.
Awesome. Can't wait. And hope to the folks listening, this is helpful and steers you to create customers that are like superheroes for your brand and talking to everybody they know about it, and not walking away, frustrated and disappointed. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Bye, everybody.